I'm Wendy Gelbert and welcome to Doors and Windows in Watercolours. We're going to be doing a cottage door surrounded by beautiful brickwork. As you see, I've transferred this tracing onto my watercolour paper, so let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is to mask out a few areas. Clean side of the masking fluid container there and draw in the brickwork. And occasionally just clean that edge off, otherwise it'll blob and go a bit thicker. It's just slightly changing direction because of the perspective of everything. That's the bricks. And again, clean that. Put some wording on there. It doesn't have to be too perfect. And a few bits of foliage and greenery, perhaps with a bit of texturing there. So this is feathery. Goes right down around the bicycle. Around we go. The spokes. A little bit of detail in the pot. Right, I think that's nearly there. Edge of the plinth here. There, I think that's about completed that task. Right, I need to let this dry now before we continue to the next stage. Right, we will start with the brickwork, and I'm going to wash water just over the whole surface so we can put a wet into wet combined wash of burnt sienna, orange, bit of violet and a bit of grey. That mixture is going to be around the plants and down the centre there. That's right. Now a bit of burnt sienna, so we put this colour on there. There we go, run that colour. So again, this is going to be a different amount of tones because of the water content. Putting this there. Goes round the pot, there. Here we are. And let that, it's kind of spiky against the greenery it meets in the flower bed. And then we can put some little dabs of, just a little bit of violet in there. Put that. We can dab a bit, just a couple of dabs, so you've got even more variation with the tone. There we go. A bit more burnt sienna. This is going around the roses, typical English cottage this is, along there. So it kind of eats into that shape, but it's also hidden by the greenery. And just a little dab there, over the masking fluid. Bit of violet, again, bit of violet. This goes down the other side of the door, because that's a bar of brickwork, so it should all match up. There we are. Plonk a little bit of that on. There we go. And just a touch of grey there, and perhaps there. So it ages it as well. So it's got lovely colour, but an ageing quality to it. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do this part here. I'm going to put some greys, different greys here, and again this will start showing up the shape of the bicycle. So we've got the shape of the door shown up by this colouring, and we're doing grey with a little bit of cerulean there. So we're wrapping that colour around the bottom of the bike and around the greenery. There we are. It needs to be dark enough to show that shape up around there. So that goes in the full wheel shape there. And everything will be revealed when we rub the masking fluid off. A bit of cerulean, just a little bit bluer, so there is a variation on that greyness, otherwise that would be a bit too dull. And lose that into the shadow. Pull that over the paving slabs. And then we can get some dots and dashes of the cobblestones. Put a dab of yellow ochre in there as well. You don't want to stir it up because that become green, but you don't want to lose the shapes. So putting that there like there. And bringing again a bit of burnt sienna there because this is made of bricks there, and around the greenery. Perhaps just a few more accents of darker bricks with the violet. It just makes it a more interesting feature. And I'm going to put some grey in behind this wheel with a touch of cerulean. Now we're going to go in for the greens now. We need to re-wet all this. And this is going to help with the shape of the door and the porch and the bicycle. It's just some lovely connecting colours. Using olive green, I'm placing in these blank areas of foliage, but again using it thicker and thinner gives you intense green or a very soft green. Washing that over so it's completely covering the wall, but we know that the wall is in behind, but we don't want an excess of one or the other. We just want a whole mixture while this greenery softens everything. You can add a bit of blue with your green for the shaded areas, which I'm going to do in a minute. Just putting that in behind the structure. Yep. And adding a bit of the Winsor blue to it. There we are. So that helps. Let it flow. The wetter it is, the more it'll flow. Don't be frightened of it. It just does its own thing. It can be quite fun to watch. If you haven't done anything like this before, it might be a good idea just to have a little practice on a piece of paper first. So that's olive green and a bit of dark blue washing into each other. And you can see the masking fluid. Look, can you see the masking fluid showing up? There. Round we go. Behind the bicycle, and suddenly when we rub off the masking fluid, you will have a bicycle there. The anticipation is amazing. And this has got a bit more blue in it. There we are. So it's sweeping round the bicycle, over the brickwork and round the porch. Yeah. You can lift with a tissue just areas. That gives you a softness as well. Just doing a little bit of dabbing there. And what I want to do is bring a bit of greenery just along here because there's too much brickwork. I might have to add a bit later on. And I'm mixing a bit of yellow in here to this green and putting a brighter area here. There we go. A little bit of cerulean, so we've got some cerulean and yellowy green. And then I'm going to add a bit of the original green with a bit of dark blue, so there we go. And before it's going to dry, I'm going to just put a spot of dark through the back there. So this is pure dark blue. And then we will allow it to dry. There. This seems to be dry enough now. I'm going to put some grey and burnt sienna for the roof, and that can be wet into wet as well. So put a bit of grey and a wash of burnt sienna in there. There, mix those together. It could be even a little bit brighter there. There's got to be a contrast between that area and that. And then I'm going to put the bright red door in. I thought this was such a cheeky door, this one, with this colour. Cadmium red. But if you try your own door, perhaps you'd like to try a different colour. It really is quite striking. There. Straight down the letterbox, the edges, and around the flowers. I put some masking fluid on there so they're going to be protected. And that again will show up that shape around there. It's the bottom, and we've got this very interesting negative shape just here through the porch's structure. There we go. And then you can drop some different colour into that, so it just gives a little bit of variation on there, just a spot of blue. There we go. I'm going to put the greenery into this pot and sweep the colour around. This is yellowy, bluey colour. And then the geraniums are going to be a pink, so sweep that colour around there. And that can run into the redness at the back, but that doesn't matter, and I can take a bit of that red and bring that in to my green. And the pink, pinky colour, right pinky colour here. Drop the pink. Yeah, that's a lovely colour. There we are. Perhaps even lift that bit out of the tissue. Bit more. There. Now I'm going to do the bicycle, and this is burnt sienna and a bit of grey mixed together. So I've got to look at the tyres. They sweep around here, around there, and this bicycle is leaning up against the steps somehow. Here we are. And the grey of the top of the step, the back, and the plinth that's supporting the pot. And I'm going to paint the pot. This is going to be grey and burnt sienna again. put that in. And put some violet and burnt sienna for the edges and the construction. It doesn't matter that it's run a bit, it's more interesting. Now let's have a look. We just need to get some darks and lights against our bicycle structure. And I'm going to put the porch architectural features into this area. So it goes up against the tiles. Now this has really got to be fairly accurate, otherwise it will look really weird. And down this edge, keeping it as straight as possible. And along here, there we go, and in through here. Yes, this can be quite complicated, but I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. And a bit of burnt sienna there. Just doing the back of the porch, and then we'll let it dry. There we go, back of the porch there. Let a bit of green come over. Some greenery is just making its way and softening the edge of that. And a bit of dark in behind. And something's going on there, I think some kind of shadow. There we go. And yellow ochre and a bit of brown for the name of the cottage and for the post box. There's the edges there, and then we'll let it dry. Right, it's dry enough to rub off. So press hard, rub hard. There, look at that bicycle. And blow that away. Now we need to start with a very soft colours because these areas need to be covered but not completely obliterated. So I'm putting a soft green wash over the feathery foliage. There we go. Straight down here. And it doesn't matter if it washes over into the dark. It'll just go at a slightly different tone, but look quite natural. Flick a little bit in there. And around your bicycle. And onto the potted plant. And the edges of this flower bed. The next thing we need to do is to put in the roses. So a few blobs of roses over the prepared areas and perhaps some extra areas, just putting them on. A pale blue I'm going to put over the bicycle, just a little bit of blue, so we're just slightly losing it, but not completely. And then we're putting some pale grey over the area where the mortar has been placed. Not losing it, just a little bit of softness. And perhaps some yellow ochre as well. So we've got a variation there of warm and cold. There, so that whole area's been softened. And some orange on the top here. So that's slightly warmed up. And put a bit of grey colour onto here. A little bit on there. Bit of yellow ochre over this corner. So all the areas have been painted over now, and we just need to concentrate a bit on the structure of this porch, mixing some blue and some burnt sienna. So it's a deep, deep brown, and looking hard at my photograph here, I'm going to put in more structure. So we've got a little bit more of a foundation for the porch. A bit of dark there and a bit of dark here. I love porches because they're all different shapes and sizes and structures. There. And a bit more there. So we've got a nice sharp edge with a bit of greenery going across it. And we've got these areas in behind there. Funny little porch. Here we go. And the edges of these bricks at the back. I'm going to soften this edge just slightly. There we go. Just there. Tissues are very useful things, they are. And I'm going to just put just a little bit of greenery just behind here. A little bit of detailing. Soften with your fingers. And just a couple of little lines perhaps down here. Structure of that, and then dab it with a tissue so it's all soft. A little bit of dark there. Just a couple of bit of details in here. Bit of dark through the back there. And then we'll call that a day, I think. I hope you enjoyed this project as it demonstrates the many props that you can include in your painting, such as pots, steps, even washing lines, brooms and the bicycle as we've used. Do have a go yourself, and I hope you enjoy it.